This is the Conservative Czar, March 12th, 2020. Today I'm going to give a primer on some of the history of the Ukraine. Okay, and this is really going to be Ukrainian history part one, and then we're going to talk about the consequences of that history in part two. But what we're going to talk about today is the history of the connection between Russia and the Ukraine. From about 1790 to 1991, I think that's pretty good range of numbers. From that period of time, remember 1780 until 1991, the Ukraine has been under almost complete control of the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union. So it was always a Russian territory or protectorate, always within what they call the sphere of influence of Russia. And so the Russian connections to the Ukraine are huge. They're so huge that the country is oversimplifying this, but basically split. Half of the country is Ukrainian nationalists, or I shouldn't say nationalists, Ukrainian, ethnic Ukrainians. They belong to a different part of the Russian Orthodox Church. They have their own church. And half the population was Russian. And also allying themselves to the Russian Orthodox Church. So there was a ethnic concern and a religious concern splitting the two parts of the Ukraine. And this was true in 1991 when it was split up. Well, it was split up for about 5 or 6 years under the power of oligarchs, power men, guys that were running the country. And there were no free elections at that time. Around 1996, they formed a more democratic constitution and had fairer elections. Although it has been reported that is not true, and that the first fair election in the Ukraine that is anywhere near democratic is 2004, 18 years ago. That was the first free election. In that free election, there were basically two candidates. One candidate for the Ukrainians, ethnic Ukrainians, and one candidate for the ethnic Russians. The election was held. It was certified as being okay. The ethnic Ukrainians won. And this was in 2004. In 2008, there's another election. And by the way, the vote was like 52-48. It was less than that because there were third parties, but basically between the two main powers, 52-48. In 2008, there's another election. It's semi-free, so we've had an election 2004, 2008, democracy. 2008, again, the ethnic Ukrainians won, basically 52-48. And the democracy goes forward to 2010, when the election is held, but the ethnic Russian wins and defeats the Ukrainian, basically 51-49. So now we have, in 2010, the first elected ethnic Russian president. And by the way, just an aside, these guys are all corrupt. Every one of them are corrupt. And this one corrupt against another corrupt candidate. So then in 2002, the freely elected Russian ethnic is elected. Now what happens here? This is the most important part of this entire history. Pay attention now. Because the ethnic Russians, with the collusion of the United States CIA, decides that this guy needs to be gone, and there is a coup to kick the elected president out. He flees to Russia. He was told, flee or die. And he flees to Russia. Now, he's a corrupt guy. They're all corrupt in the Ukraine. Okay? They're all corrupt. So here's the thing. This is when everything hits the fan. There is no democracy. This was a coup, kicking out a duly elected president. The democracy is over. It's over. Every time a Russian will be elected from now on, they will be kicked out of office or killed. The democracy is over. There's no democracy to defend in Ukraine. They ended that with the 2014 coup. It was a coup. And what do the Russians do? The Russians who consider the Ukraine within their sphere of influence, tolerated the democracies. They didn't try to overthrow the Ukrainian president in 2004 or the 2008, but as soon as the Russians elected, they kick him out of office. They form a coup. That's the end of democracy. So what is Russia supposed to do? Okay, it took the Crimea. It took the Crimea as a central. Said, no, you're not going to. We have too many Russians in the Crimea. I need this area. We took it. And there wasn't much complaint about it. Who was complaining? We're going to go to war over this? Not even close. Not even close. The whole point I'm trying to get at here is this is not a democracy. This is a series of elections held after a coup that destroyed the democracy. And we put Russia in a position where the CIA has a coup, kicks out, in a fully democratic process, kicks out their Russian candidate. What are the Russians supposed to do? This is a direct attack on their sphere of influence. It's a direct attack on Russia. And ever since then, 2014, Russia has maintained two things, really, and there are a lot of more, but two I want to point out. One is that they will protect certain Russian enclaves in Ukraine, mainly in the eastern part of Ukraine, where the Russian population dominates. Okay, so they said they're going to defend those people, and those people have been attacked. And the second thing they said, the second thing that they said was that we will not allow Ukraine, after this disaster, but on general principles, the Ukraine cannot join NATO. That is an act of war. And that's what's led to the problem we have today. You don't hear this anywhere because you're not allowed to talk about the truth of the matter. What I've described today is on the historical record. What else were the Russians supposed to do? This is the Conservative Czar. See you next time.